It's gonna be a bit longer this meeting today, but there's a lot to go over. So as a result, I'm not gonna read the preamble. I assume everybody will cooperate. Eleanor, Madam Secretary, do we have a quorum?
We do.
Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion for someone to make that we suspend the normal business and begin with the presentation from the assessor's office on the tax work off.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, on the motion, discussion on the motion, on the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carried. Okay. So if you would like to begin, Jackie.
So I have a few
Okay,
things
well,
that I can hand out, actually about 3 things. Yeah. 3 things is, what I was able to find for the work-off. It isn't something that we handle, our only take,
What is this you're talking about?
the work-off, the veteran.
Tax
work-off.
work.
Ah,
So
Well,
the
well,
only thing.
I'm
is-
sorry, let me just,
Yes.
this is for senior work off and veterans work off.
oh, both.
You
We don't have a
It's
senior
not
work
senior,
off right
it's
now.
It's only
Oh,
veterans.
wait a minute, this document is the one we've been using.
No, but that's for veteran. We couldn't find one just specifically for, the.
Senior work off, that's a local option that would have to be adopted.
It has not been
The
adopted.
senior work
No, it
has
hasn't.
not,
No.
yeah,
Thank
just
you
the
for
veteran.
Just a veteran, yes.
Okay.
Clarifying
Yes.
that. Okay.
So this
Yes.
is only veteran work.
We have
Okay,
10, right?
We tried the senior work off about 8 years ago.
oh, I know, I tried the dollar.
Yeah, and it never got past Chris Senior's desk.
Maybe now that the veterans have a better chance here.
I can speak a little bit to the senior workout
Yeah.
program.
By
It's
senior.
something that we started to discuss right before Nancy left, using the parameters of the veterans work off. So now that we have those parameters set, we started talking about doing the senior one, but
Right.
we'll probably start that conversation again when Nancy gets back.
There were 2 models that we had. There were 2 other towns that had it. They had the senior work off program. It's not heavily used. Because there's limitations to the income. To being qualified to do the tax work off. I think that was like a big part of it. We do have a history with chronic in place.
Say that again, please.
We do have a history of getting that in place.
Thank you.
So our take in the assessor's office, so what happened is Patricia, I had seen her, I met her out. And she'd asked me about the veteran work off, and I said to her, it's been adopted, but we don't have a process in our assessor's office. Because the only thing we do in the office is qualify the person. So if there's a trust involved, we look at the trust to see if that person, the resident or the veteran who is looking into the work off, if they have a stake in the house. So that's basically our purpose of pre-qualifying someone. And then towards the end, our next involvement and final involvement is giving them the exemption. It's that work off money that once they work it off, comes off their taxes. So,
Can you back up a little about
Yeah.
this trust stuff?
yes, yes.
What are we talking about?
So when someone applies for an exemption, any exemption, and I also gave you a chart of exceptions that we have in the assessor's office. And I could also,
An exemption from what?
property taxes, real
Oh,
estate.
you're talking
Yeah.
about the work off now. Okay.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah.
you're referring to that as an exemption.
So there's a few things in that chart that I handed out. And that has exemptions that are offered, deferral, and it also has similar qualifications to a work off. So one of the.
So there are other means of exemptions from property tax, is that right?
Correct.
Oh, okay, so
Yes.
you're specifically talking about the veterans.
So in order for someone to be involved in the work off, they have to meet the qualifications if do they own the house? What interest do they have in the house?
Right.
So for that purpose and that purpose only, the assessor's office gets in.
Mhm.
And typically what happens is the assessor's office will either get an email or someone will walk into our office and ask us if if they have an interest. So we look at that, we read the trust and we determine that. which is what we do for every exemption. So
Okay,
once
so
that
if
is,
a person's home is in a trust and they're a trustee, then they have an interest, is that?
It-
the qualification is?
You have to be a trustee and a beneficiary.
And a beneficiary.
Yeah. or you must in the actual trust and have some form of reserving the right to own and occupy.
Uh-huh,
Like
So-
the state.
Yeah, so sometimes it's
Right.
clear on the deed, sometimes it is within the trust. So that's what we do have to look at. If it's something simple that we can identify, we don't need to look at the trust.
And then also, if I can just add, it takes about 5 minutes. It's not a big deal.
uh-huh,
Bring the trust to the assessors.
uh-huh.
They'll go through it and 5 minutes later, you'll know where you stand.
Mhm. Okay,
So, and not only for the veteran work off, because once one of the things we do is when we know who you are and you've identified that you are involved in the veteran work off, we then look to see if you qualify for other exemptions. So, which I did, and we asked the question is, do you meet, and if you look at that chart that Rachel handed out, if you meet that criteria, which if you're, I believe it's 70 years old, if your income is a certain income and assets, and I could explain what those are. If you're within that range, or the maximum, I believe is 30 something. Then you qualify for additional to the work off, you qualify for the other one.
Well, your document here specifies the age of 60, not 70,
For what?
for your document here.
So that is coming directly from the state. So it isn't anything. So what I did is when Patricia had asked me if I had any information on the work off, I just went on to the website and I printed it what I found. So I don't know if when Cohasset adopted the veteran work off, if they had any particular options, local options
Okay.
for that.
And when she says Patricia, Tricia
Yes.
saw Tricia, our social worker who is tracking the
Uh-huh.
hours for folks.
Yes.
Oh, she-
Nancy
okay.
assigned her that.
All right.
We
I
only have
met
one
that at
person
dinner.
so far, yeah,
Yes.
so, and so more. Can you talk about a little bit about the process? I know you talked about it, but with Phil, where Phil comes into play here for the veterans, because that's who's,
Yes.
who's the
How
chain
is
of
it-
command, right, yeah.
So I think when this first came into the assessor's office, I just started. And I think when it was adopted, they were trying to find who's going to handle this. My suggestion was to contact the senior center in Situate, that's where I was in for 5 years. And that's how she handles all this. But being that this is a veteran one, I don't know who is in charge. Typically it should be the veteran officer.
So I have experience in Rockland, there was the council on aging was in charge of handling the senior work offs. And the veteran agent handled all the veteran work offs, and they were separate, and they would come to us, we basically just qualify them. Give them the veteran agent or the council on aging, send them there, and they would submit all their paperwork through them. And do their hours through them, they would be tracked through the designated person, and then at the end, they would give us a paper. Basically saying everything, or we go to the treasurer and then we get it and then we just process it, so. But that was the veterans agent did everything, he tracked the hours. He took the paperwork, so that was who did it there.
Thank you.
Any questions on the exemptions or?
Well, back in the program again, I was under the understanding that your presentation today was gonna talk about the senior work off.
So I was pretty clear in my conversation with Diane that it was. What I was gonna bring is the exemptions that we have in our office. We don't have any involvement other than qualifying them. That's all we do in the assessor's office.
So there is no
There's no
senior.
There is
Well,
no.
there
this
is
whole
no-
document is talking about senior work off.
That's a state
That's a
document that
state-
tells everyone in the
Exactly.
state.
Yes.
It tells
Exactly.
everyone in the state what the work off is for seniors and veterans. That's all that document is. It's just an informal, it's an informational document that's on the state website. Every town has to vote,
yeah.
has to
Yes.
approve an individual.
And we had the Valor Act,
Yeah.
which is the veteran work off.
Correct.
That was approved at town meeting last year
Yes.
and went into effect January first. So we don't have anything for seniors yet, right?
No.
Is
Not
that in
to-
process at all?
No,
We
it's
don't
not,
know. I
it's
have
not a
not heard.
process.
This is honestly, I've been here since December and this is the first, I know Jackie was preparing information for the Rattler Act and the exemptions but this is honestly the first that I've heard of it, but
Okay.
yeah.
So that has to be driven by the board, if you want to have a senior workout plan. We went through this, like I said, about 8 or 9 years ago. We tried to put it in.
Yeah.
At that time, the town didn't have the strength on the administrative side to do that, and then we didn't have a high desire from participants, right? The board, we all wanted it. The director at the time was, really wanted to put it in, but we had just kind of moved in here, just kind of got started. So it was kind of hard to gauge how the town would set it up. And they looked at 2 other towns to see how theirs were. And I think right now, the best thing we can do is now that the veterans has been put in place, what we're missing is a transaction for the town to learn how to process hours and how to process tax credits to those who qualify, right? So what we need to do is we need to find a participant or two to enroll in the veteran tax credit program, and let it flow through the town so that the town can understand how best this works and can apply administratively. And once that happens, they'll say, okay, this isn't that bad. We have people, we know what to do. So now what we'll do is, next year we'll come in front of them and say, we'd like to do it for seniors now and put in a senior workout program
Okay.
and understand how that works. But we can't pepper them with all these programs and they don't even know how to do the first one yet, so it's hard. It is hard to do because, this is all under state regulations. It's not really something that the town can say, oh, I'll credit you, I'll credit you, I'll credit you. So it's all, regulated by the state and all of these processes. So, and in fairness, to the folks at town hall, they've got to implement this somehow and understand how to implement it. And there are a lot of criteria to meet, before you can start getting those tax credits.
But so when I worked in Hingham, the outreach coordinator handled the senior portion. And she was just her role was outreach and she tracked the hours and she was also responsible for any training and finding placement, within town hall. And dealing with any issues that came up if, things weren't working out. So there is a certain supervisory level, to it too, to making sure that things are done. And then the veterans agent handled the veterans hours.
Yes.
But it was very successful, it was very successful. And we had quite a few working within the senior center. But they had it in place for a while. It was pretty seamless. But you did have, she was dedicated though too. And quite often she'd have to, address again if the position wasn't a good fit. But the senior, and have to make changes. So there's a lot more involved.
There's a lot involved.
Yeah.
So Rockland Council on Aging, they were just updating their criteria as far as like, I think they were updating the payment information, like, they were upgrading it to, I think it was minimum wage. Maybe it was below that before, and they were just updating their numbers. So they're kind of going through the process of an update, so might be a good resource for you to reach out to for them as far as, because they're the ones who decide that information and then put it in place. And again, it goes to town meeting and, but they could be a good resource for you. And again, they worked with the, after I left, the assessor that replaced me, they've been working along with her. So, and I'm happy to support you any way that I can.
So what towns currently have the senior work off? It's Rockland?
Rockland does, Hingham, Situate,
Randolph.
yeah.
Well, it does have it, yes.
No?
Yeah.
While you're here, can you just talk about the tax deferral? Because a lot of my folks benefit from that. Can you tell people?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's your specialty.
So the that's when, a lot of seniors have a difficult time, paying the bill, the tax bill. Us in the assessor's office, we prefer for people to stay in their home. So what we do is, if you look at that chart, it's under 41A, which has the age, which is 65 years old. They do have to meet the ownership criteria to make sure that they do own the house if it's in a trust. And then the next thing is an income, which that income of $51,000 will be changing for next year. So that's going to change. So they're
Going up,
Yes, it's an article for the next town meeting, so we can vote.
So, what that is they can defer $100 or all of it. They can also defer their water bill or sewer. It's up to them. They can defer up to 50% of their house. And so meaning they could be in this program for many years. They have to apply every single year. And it gets a little tricky if they have a mortgage. Only because we have to be in first place.
right,
So they have to, so the resident will have to have the mortgage sign a letter stating that we're in first place.
you have to get a bank to agree to take second place.
We have someone
Has it?
just did it, yes, absolutely. Well,
That's
typically,
incompetent.
we come in first place regardless, but we do, it's kind of a courtesy that we, I guess, make them aware that this is in existence.
So it's a loan, not a lien.
So,
It's a
the-
lien.
It is
so
a lien,
it,
yes.
it's a lien, it's 4% interest of what you are deferring. And upon the sale of the house, it goes, or if you pass, it goes to 16% the day the person passes. And then the estate will pay off.
So why do you need a first position if it's a lien?
That's just what we have in our paperwork, and you're right. But it's just what our paperwork
Is
requires.
that it's a state requirement?
Yes.
And why 16%? Why does it count if someone dies?
It's a state thing. So we were able to bring it down to 4%. At any point, anyone can sell. And it is at 4.4%. It's a state thing.
But it's you don't, as I spoke to you
Yes,
earlier, we don't
yes.
have to. Let's say you started today
Yes,
and you do this for 2 years, let's say, you
Yeah.
defer it, then for a third year, you decide not to defer it. It's 4% on that 1 year, right?
Yes.
It doesn't,
Correct.
it doesn't
it's
accumulate.
Hamilton, correct.
Okay,
Yes,
And then-
and you could stop at any time.
okay.
And it's any amount, you can do your full taxes, you could do a quarter of your taxes, you can decide the amount that you want. to
Every
defer.
year you decide what you want to defer.
It's aimed at people on a fixed income, so they know that they can afford this, and sometimes it's like the 70-year-old exemption that we have. Sometimes people do it just to get them from 65 to 70, and then they get that exemption, and sometimes they'll stop the deferral, sometimes they continue to deferral.
Well, the
and-
document says 65.
Correct, right, so they'll use that from 65 until they're 70. And then they can get the exemption, so sometimes they'll stop using deferrals, like to get them to that point.
What exemption, what do you mean?
The senior exemption.
It's $2,000 off your taxes if you
Oh,
qualify.
but then you have to include the asset, the house,
The house is not included as assets at any of these.
even on the, again, I'm looking at the chart at the
Yeah.
end.
Yes,
So at the top where it goes through the seniors, it goes 17D, 41C and C.
Yes,
The asset doesn't include the house.
correct. It does not.
yeah, it does not. include
Does not
assets.
include your car either.
Yeah.
So assets meaning, if you have a 401k, IRA, anything like that, it
Okay.
includes it.
Except
Bank
4%,
statements.
did you, I thought I heard you say that we got it down before. 4% is state part of the statute.
I believe,
And it's
I
subject
believe
to
it's
change, I would guess.
8, or maybe it's 16%. It's changed, in Cohasset, it came down to 4. I believe it was at 8 at some point, and it came down to 4. I don't know what Cohasset started at.
Yeah, okay,
but
so
it is
Cohasset
4%.
does
Yeah.
determine
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
rate.
Yes, yes.
And
So-
I,
Yeah.
So if you do nothing at all and don't pay your taxes, the town puts a lien on your property.
So are you with the application or without the application?
Without, if you do nothing at all, right? So if you can't afford to pay your taxes, you don't go through the paperwork process in which you charge 4%. And you need to get a letter from the bank to take a first position if there's a mortgage. If you do nothing, and you just don't pay your taxes, then the town puts a lien on the property for the amount of the taxes. So what is the percentage?
I don't know, I don't know at what point does the town then decide to take your home. I don't know how many years.
Okay.
I really, that's a treasure collector question. It's a great question that I don't know that.
And different towns do it differently too. Sometimes, it's a. Yeah,
It depends, but why this is attractive, it just allows the homeowner to use that money for other things.
I have a few people who have really benefited from that and
Yeah,
it's
I bet.
allowed them to stay in their homes. Because
Yeah.
taxes are higher,
Mhm.
as we all know. So,
And they just got higher.
That's without cannabis.
thank you.
As far as we know.
Do we have any more questions?
I got a ton of questions.
Oh.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Regarding the, payoffs, or, if you want to use the, in other towns where they do it, where you can work it off.
Yeah.
Did they have any trouble, with part-time employees of the town wanting some overtime and not being a veteran and couldn't?
Never heard of.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. As far as people feeling like they were losing out on like.
Yeah, why
overtime?
can't we get overtime and?
No, I don't think so. I think they see the benefit. I don't, I don't know about, but speaking for most town hall, I don't think there's much overtime. I'm probably in the DPW and whatever, but as far as, I don't think it's ever been an issue. I don't think people would really complain about something like that either.
I've seen it
I
in the
think they-
private section and they
Yeah.
got voted down because people who come in on an hourly basis. When they can only have 18 or 19 hours a week,
Yeah.
when they see other people getting more work. It was bothersome, but I was just curious.
Yeah,
about
no,
that.
I've never heard
I've never
anyone,
seen
yeah, I've never
that.
seen that. I
Yeah.
think they see the benefit as far as it benefiting the taxpayers and they.
Well, they're taxpayers too.
Well, I know,
I was just-
I know, but I think they
Yeah,
see
yeah.
that, I don't think I've never heard anyone complain about that, no.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And the last thing that I handed out or Rachel handed out was the property record card, just so that everyone is familiar what that is. That's something that we do in the assessor's office. That's how you pay your bill, based on your assessments of your house, just getting you familiarized with your property record card. So I printed one of this building so that you can have an idea of what it looks like. And if you have any questions about your own home, you can always call us and we will send you. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, let me start with, I've got a small list of questions here. Actually,
Yes.
as you know, I'm involved with the Valor Act, and I have been since January when we started it. There's no age discrimination on the veteran side, so that's not an issue. But for the senior side, the state document here is saying 60. And now on your document at the end, it talks about the individual abatements,
Exemptions.
exemptions, you talk about 70. So you have
Correct.
to decide.
No, so two completely different things.
Yep.
So,
Well, now let's focus senior.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say we're gonna move this program forward for seniors.
Yeah.
What's the age?
it's what's adopted for the town.
Yes.
So I will tell you that in Situate, the age is 60 years old for anyone that wants to work.
Okay,
The exemptions, which is completely different, that's a
Right.
means test. That is an age thing.
so what we're looking
Yeah.
for seniors would be 60 years.
That,
If the town adopts it.
Yeah,
If
that's-
it's,
yeah,
well, we actually have to put something together to get the town
Exactly,
adopted.
exactly.
So,
I think Rockland is 65 maybe. That would be something, I believe, it's a local option.
That's-
Yeah, that would be up to the board to decide on what was best. Sometimes it might be good if there's people who aren't 65 yet, don't qualify for the deferral, they don't qualify for the exemption. Maybe you want them to be 60, 62.
well, you refer to the board, is that us or
Yes.
is that,
That's your board, yes,
Okay.
that's you. You make those decisions.
Okay. Now, the hourly rate is the state minimum wage.
Yeah.
So that'll fluctuate as well as time goes on. California's up to $20 an hour now. So, okay, so I assume that'll continue to fluctuate. Again, looking at, unfortunately, I was just referring to the document you
Yes.
gave us, because I have been through that many times. The town can revoke this ability after 3 years, according to this document.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, is there any reason to revoke it? What would,
I don't know, that is in a board decision, we.
again, this
Again,
board,
Yes.
we don't get involved in that
Yes.
process, you have a lot of power.
Yeah.
but we didn't
Yes.
realize that.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah.
We knew we had the power. The problem you have is.
Having somebody else agree that we have the
Yeah.
Yeah,
power.
so you have to get it on the warrant and people will vote
Exactly,
for the article. And
exactly.
in order to remove the program, it would have to go through the same process where they say, listen, we're,
Well, not the program, but the individual,
Oh, yeah.
No, I think that talks about the program.
the program.
Yes.
It has to be 3
Yes,
years.
the individual, I would suspect, will be handled by whoever's handling.
On a year-to-year basis,
Okay.
yeah, they would have to qualify every year, whether, whatever income and assets or whatever your criteria you decide. They would have to qualify.
Okay, let's shift gears now to part of this document that talks about veterans. Now, it says that a veteran spouse
Yeah.
can work off the abatement if the veteran is deceased. Any issue with that?
So, for us, if a veteran, is deceased, his wife gets the same exact exemption. So if it's a service, if the veteran had a service-connected disability, whatever that percentage is, upon his passing, the widow gets the same one. So if she was,
Well,
or
no,
he
there's
had
no,
been,
again, there's no.
Yeah.
We're talking, the veteran doesn't have to be disabled to get in the Veterans Valor Act.
absolutely, so we can't speak on that because this is
Right.
completely different from what we have. That would be a Phil question.
Yeah,
Because
Well,
again, this is state.
yeah.
What Cohasset does is local option to Cohasset.
where are we on
possibly.
that option?
Now, that would be a decision that Phil probably would have
Okay.
made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Cohasset does have its own document on this act.
Oh, does
correct? It must. I
The
don't know.
Valor Act?
And
Yeah,
if,
yeah.
if they
Right, so
adopted
that's the
it,
document.
Yeah.
we
If
need
they
to be
adopted
reviewing
it.
Those kind of questions.
Okay.
correct.
Yeah.
If it was adopted, there has to be. So that's, again, when I was asked the question, I just grabbed whatever the state had, whatever tweaks Cohasset did to it, then I suspect it did.
Okay, let me shift again to the senior
Yes.
side. Now, let's say a senior has the ability to do this. Let's say we have this for a senior. If there are 2 seniors who own the house, can they both apply and each get $1,500? How does that work?
That's a great question.
That is a good question.
I would imagine yes, but I'm not 100% sure,
Yeah.
only because I didn't have that instance in where I was. I don't know.
I would think one
So
example.
it's individual.
Per household.
They own the
Well, it's
property
an ex-
jointly and all.
But it's an exemption, this isn't an
not.
exemption, this is a work off, which is
Right,
a
the
little
work off.
different.
Yeah.
So that's a great
Which
question,
qualify.
that would be something that would have to be researched.
Let's say each
You're
owns
saying
half of the house.
Then they
in
get
addition
half
to
the
the
credit.
half of the
Yeah.
credit.
Yeah,
Well,
they may.
But the idea is, it could be the other way around.
Yeah,
That the house gets
It would.
3,000 instead of
It
1,500.
would be.
Okay, so that's gonna be.
that's a great question.
I thought the work off was based off an individual's application to be able to work. And
Opposed
But
to
it's
two
probably-
individuals.
Right, 2 individuals, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's how we understood it years ago,
Well, okay,
because you're not applying for a tax credit for the property.
exactly, it's
You're-
not
you're
an
applying for
exemption,
work as
it's a
an
work
individual.
off.
It's a work off.
Correct, I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah, so
no, but it is a tax work off for the property.
It's not. It's an individual working in lieu of receiving cash.
Yes.
They're getting a credit against their taxes owed.
Well, then it should be 3,000. With both
It's
a great
based on
question.
individual.
Yeah.
I don't-
It's a
I
great
don't-
question.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
uh,
Then you're saying.
we also,
same with
again,
both people could apply, you would only get half. Like, I think,
well, let's say
I think if you're.
each
joint
person
owners,
puts in
it's-
100 hours, which is $1,500. So it implies, I would think
You
you
could.
could get 3,000 off the house. Maybe in certain instances, maybe 4,500, depending how you work your house.
So we'll just,
You have a
if you could
throuple?
get back to us with a restriction on the number of household residents that could apply. for
So
the
that,
Tax work off.
that would be a question for when you do the research on this with what other towns are doing. That's a great question. Because our involvement, again, is just pre-qualifying and doing the.
Right, you issue the credit,
Okay.
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
we figure out the qualification.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
okay, got it.
Yes, yes.
All right, so right now, everyone qualifies. In fact, I feel old right now.
Music man, I'm sure you can put that
Yeah,
together.
I'm
Anyway,
aging as you speak.
okay. Okay, now, next one, the taxpayer doesn't have to live in the house, correct?
No, I believe they do have to live, it has to be their
Yes.
primary domicile, yes.
Absolutely,
Okay.
yes. Yes.
Yeah. Because then, yeah.
Well, that's what I mean, this thing is very big when you go through it.
Yeah, it is very big. It is.
Okay, so, but your point is that it should be, they live in the house,
It's different.
okay?
Page two.
Now, the maximum rebate, regardless how many hours the person works, is only $1,500.
There's-
Let's say the person puts in 150 hours.
I believe it's 100 hours
Right.
maximum.
Maximum.
Okay.
That's it.
There's definitely a cap.
Yeah, there's a cap, yeah.
There is.
All right, is there also a cap to how many people can participate?
That's a local option, and I believe Rockland does 10,
10 seniors?
10 seniors, yeah, and I believe this veterans is similar. They've tried to keep it in line as far as similar to,
Well, when we put together the veteran, we looked at 10,
yeah.
because we didn't have anybody who's interested, so. Okay. Oh, what about, I had a question come in about working off, even if they've already got an exemption for something else.
You can do both.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Double dip.
Yes.
It's the Massachusetts
Well, you're working.
Okay.
Yes,
Now, can anyone who's a town employee participate? Or does it have to be, in other words, if you're being paid by the town to do job
Already on
X,
the payroll.
can you also go off and do a work off?
That's a good question.
Great question
Yeah,
to
yeah, I'd have to look into that, yeah.
I think the answer would be yes,
volunteers.
because you couldn't be exempt from a benefit just because.
And
you
the way
work.
it's processed like a paycheck, so it goes through payroll too, so.
so do we have any town employees who are 60 and older?
Oh, yeah.
We do?
Yeah.
If we say the age of 60. Right? Okay. A proxy. Now, we know, and again, in this document, they talk about a proxy working off for a veteran, or not a veteran, in this case, for a senior who can't do the work themselves.
Not aware of that.
Yeah.
I've not seen that.
In this document.
It's a
Yeah.
state document, correct? I don't know.
That would, I would, again, I would assume that would be a decision that you would have to make. I'm not sure if it's a local option.
There is a property allowance for the veteran.
Yeah.
correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, Jim's my proxy.
Now, he can't get his trust through assessment.
Involved mine,
Okay. Okay, now, as far as finding jobs for these people, whose responsibility is that?
I suspect veteran agent.
No.
No,
Oh,
the
for
senior, that
senior.
would be, it would be whoever you put in charge of that, whether it's outreach or if someone, if you have a designated person, if there's a contact at town hall, maybe they can work with HR or.
So for the Valor Act, Phil sent out an email to kind of likely departments and said, we're starting this program. Does anybody have any positions? You know, that would be good for this.
Well, that's my problem.
Mhm.
Because we got the library and the senior center offered jobs for volunteers. No other department has. Is there a way that we can get Chris Senior to send a note to all departments asking for volunteer hours?
Absolutely, I mean.
And that's something you guys will do?
I mean,
They don't.
I have no problems in making a suggestion that, but I could assist you with that. I don't know if I have any pull, but you know, between Megan and myself.
Well, I mean, let's assume that we get some response on this. We're gonna need to fill the
Yeah,
job.
well, you know what,
Who's
I
the
don't,
new communication director?
Kevin
All
Perry.
right, there's your answer.
Yeah, he would be a good resource too. Yeah, I could, you know, work with him, work with Chris and,
Because that's a problem.
Yeah.
If we get people in to do this and we have no place to put them,
yeah.
it's a
One of
joke.
the problems with the town hall, of course, right now is that I know
We
there's.
know about many of the problems.
Yeah, well, and of course, so I think there's like an occupancy like issue with everyone moving from the
Yeah, we're
older
all
part of,
moving.
yeah, so. Like, we don't, the departments are already, there's a lack of space as it is. So I think it would be hard to find more space, you know, the greeters, you know, we had great greeters that we miss and we've lost them because we don't have space. So that's kind of an issue right now, and hopefully it will be resolved eventually when this goes through.
We have volunteers with putty and paint, so we can go over.
Oh, good, well, there we go, we can just put them to work.
That's it, we have many seniors that are already volunteering,
That's right.
so
Yeah.
they would participate for sure.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing is certification by the department. So at some point in time, you're gonna ask for hours. Let's say it's November 9th
Mhm.
is a magic date. You want all the hours accumulated by November 9th. Two things out of that. Who certifies the hours? The individual departments,
Yes.
such as the library, the senior center, DPW, wherever
They would, yeah.
they would, so
They would sign
you
off,
would,
yeah.
they would send the hours to you, or how does that work?
Then we go
No.
to treasure collector.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Send it to the church.
We get all the information from treasure collector once they've done whatever it is. They tell us how much is going to be reduced from their property tax.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it also goes through, and again, I'm referring to your document, that once you can't bank any hours. So let's say on November 9th, you have 100 hours, so bang, everything's, you get a certificate, or the department will send the treasurer, X person has these hours. They can't bank any hours for next year. So if the magic date that you call for hours is November 9th, I would assume at November 10th, you can start accumulating hours for the next year.
So I do know that in Situate, she has a list that she writes names down, people who are interested, and whenever it begins is when she starts the call. So I don't know at what point does that start. I don't know.
But we're
That's
gonna
a,
need those dates so that we can coordinate this.
yeah,
Correct.
that's a
Okay. But I mean,
resource.
since you can't bank hours, then we're gonna need to know when you can start accumulating for next year. So I would assume if it's November 9th, then November 10th, you can start accumulating for the following year.
Yeah, I
Accumulating
would have
work
to look,
hours.
so there's a lot of stuff, that might be a treasurer collection
Yeah.
question, because there's a lot of dates, like, you
I
know, as
wonder
far
if
as
it's-
assessment dates, I wonder if it's like.
July, I
similar,
would
yeah.
imagine if it's July 1st
So
to, because it
so
comes
that
out.
paragraph is specific not to banking hours. This section of banking of hours and credits has everything to do with the current fiscal year tax bill. So basically what they're saying is if you work 100 hours in fiscal year 24, right, and you're done November 9th,
Well, no.
the credits go
no,
against that
As
tax.
I understand it, you have to have the numbers in November. Sometime.
Before the tax bill.
For the
goes out,
taxes,
right?
yeah.
Third and fourth quarter, yes.
Right, but you get quarterly tax bills, so they can apply throughout the year on your tax bill.
That's not the
But
way
we-
it's gonna work.
But what you can't do is you can't work hours this year and apply it to next year's tax bill. That's what this section E is talking about. You have all,
But if the hours are, well, this year's tax bill doesn't end in November, right? So,
right, so we go July 1 to June 30th for
but they're
taxes.
calling for hours in November.
Right, because it has to be applied to the third or the fourth quarter
Okay.
bills. It can't be applied to
Yeah.
preliminary.
Yeah,
So
I
that's,
understand,
there's.
that's where I
there's-
understand it.
Yeah.
But what I'm asking is now, since it's gonna be in the middle,
Yeah.
let's say it is November
Yeah.
9th. I would expect that November 10th, you can start your accumulation for the
I
following
can
year.
check in on that, I would think that it would probably be after January 1st, but I'm not
So you-
100%
So
sure.
those
The
debt
answer is
months,
you can't.
Yeah, I would think so. It's probably like, there's probably a time frame as far as fiscal year and like balancing out like the calendar year, like you can't start.
but we're
work
gonna
till
need to
this
know
date.
that, okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's, I mean, and that's something again, that, like this again is not, we just, accept it, and so we don't know, do too much with
Right.
this, but that would definitely be a question that you could find out how other towns are processing that.
I want to see how we're gonna do
So
it.
this one, you can't.
Well,
apply to the new
but-
tax bill. You
right,
can't apply
that's
the
all.
hours worked to the new tax bill.
Yeah,
So if you work hours in,
What happens to the volunteer who works hours in November and December? Are those dead hours?
no, they get applied to the next tax
That's
bill.
what I'm asking.
The next tax bill is still within the same
So,
fiscal
but
year.
we aren't aware the dates that they started and
Yeah.
ended, we just get the
we
The
just get
total.
the total of hours, and we don't,
Yeah.
that would definitely be.
So
Like,
that's.
I don't know how Phil is doing it. I don't know if he has set dates, like for that fiscal year, you're starting on January 1st.
Well, it wasn't his dates, it was your dates. It came back to us that it was gonna be sometime in November, that you wanted the hours.
So that it could be applied to the
Third,
third.
fourth
and-
quarter.
Right,
Fourth quarter tax.
so I would assume that if you have a drop dead date when you want these hours, that any time after that, the volunteer accumulates for the following year. If not, then we got, 8 weeks of dead time. And that includes the departments that are gonna be depending on these volunteers. They aren't gonna show up in November and December.
So that is problematic because in this paragraph right here, you can't work in June and have it apply to the July tax bill because it's another fiscal
Okay, well,
year.
that's a problem.
Well, that is exactly, I think it depends on, the start of fiscal year. I think it all has to line up, and there's probably certain dates that you work these dates, it'll be applied for this fiscal year, and after that, it's on a certain date. I'd have to look into it more
Well,
exactly.
we have to understand that before we can offer this program. Because we can't leave somebody hanging. Certainly, we couldn't have someone start a program and then find out X amount of hours into it, they don't qualify
So I
for some
think,
reason.
I think circling back with Phil and the treasurer
Well, not
collector.
Phil, I'm talking the senior,
But-
the senior tax work off, we're gonna put it in place.
Oh,
Correct, but it's gonna, right, but it's gonna be similar to the way that Phil is
Okay.
doing it. The dates are
Yes.
gonna be similar.
Well, the
so,
way Phil and I understand it, and perhaps it's our problem,
Yeah,
that November tenth would start accumulating for the following year. And that's the way we're moving forward unless someone tells us not to. But I don't want to find out that somebody who works November and December eventually finds out that their hours don't count. And if it is that way, that's fine. They'll just stop working until January.
And we have that same, we have that same problem every year here with the grant that we get. So we get a grant from the state and we pay someone like Nettie, or we pay someone like Siobhan, right, out of that grant, and then they have to stop working because they've used up those funds and we can't work for a certain period of time,
Okay,
right?
well, that's
So we've
okay,
had that
too.
in the past, yeah.
That's
So
okay
it
too, if
does-
we do it that
does-
way.
It does occur,
Well, we're gonna have to formulate it that way,
Correct.
so the volunteer knows.
right? The only
Okay.
thing you can't do is you can't bank hours in April,
Yeah.
May, and June and apply it to next year's
Right,
tax.
okay. that's
So
fair.
that they would have to figure out how they could apply it to the current tax bill. But they issue their tax bills. You issue them in the rears anyway, right?
So the tax bills are processed in around November, so that's that
So the
money
main
comes
tax
off
bill, the main
third-
tax bill is not for May, June, and July. It's for the prior quarter, right?
no, it's for the moving forward, yeah.
Is it moving forward or
Yeah,
backwards?
it's April, May, and June.
So the one that's due May first,
Yep.
It's April, May, and June.
April, May, June,
Yeah.
okay. So that's why you have to have your hours in before the tax bill goes out, because they apply the credit to the tax bill.
It says right here, to your point, that you earn them in the current fiscal year, if it doesn't get into the records, you can apply it to the following tax year.
Yeah, you can't
Doesn't
bank.
say tax.
Can't bank the
You
hours,
can't, but you can for that.
right, technically.
It allows for that.
This thing gets more complicated as I'm
It's
trying to
very
see how to implement.
complicated.
Feels like one of those math
I
problems.
know.
Train
Yeah,
to
I know.
Chicago,
It's
worse
midnight,
than all.
track B.
Okay,
And the
also,
airplane is.
Tax-
also, as far as taxes on this. Now, I understand that based on the example in here, about 8% of whatever the hourly wage is considered taxes. But is no state tax, but there are federal tax on all the hours. Let's say you get the 1,500 minus 8% because of all the town stuff. I imagine you'll issue a 1099
I
that
believe.
states the income for federal purposes.
Yep, it's basically like getting paid,
Well, it's not. Now, can you
but that's
also
how it's
do,
processed.
can you also do federal withholding on that?
I'm not sure, that's a treasurer
Well,
collection.
That's,
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
is
that's a
why the
treasure
town
collection.
wasn't anxious to do it
Uh-huh.
8 years ago.
Or
Yeah.
you
That
could,
is-
or you could just say,
horrendous.
you could just say that there won't be any withholding and it's up to volunteer to pay the taxes.
I think that it is withholding because it goes through payroll.
Yeah.
I think it
Yes.
automatically withholds because it goes through payroll.
We didn't.
Okay, well, it wouldn't withhold with state, but they would with federal.
I don't want to tell them, but it'd be a 1098.
Yeah.
not a 1099.
Okay.
I remember, well.
So is there any further discussion?
Yes, there is. Well, I told you it was gonna be a long meeting.
But it's hypothetical.
Wow.
No, it's not.
Well, the
We gotta
senior
put
one
this
is,
together. Why is it hypothetical?
the senior one isn't in place.
Yeah, exactly.
There has to be a committee.
But we have to put
develop
it
that.
together, that's why I'm
Yeah,
trying to.
but you're kind of wasting your time.
Yeah,
because
we can
you
We
have
can
to-
do it at a later time. We can do it
Yeah,
at a
yeah,
later
you
time.
do that testing.
other towns.
Yeah.
Where you have to first ask Chris, and
Yeah.
it didn't the last time, it was slam shut, and there were good reasons why it was
Yeah.
slam shut, so. I can't see why we're doing this.
And
because-
as Paul said, let's get the veteran, the Valor, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah,
and get
get that
that
going.
handle on that, and then we can
You
see.
need,
the-
with every program that the town votes to put in, and I'll tell you, when we go to the Springtown meeting, probably within the first 5 articles, they're the ones no one pays attention to because they're all like administrative articles, right? But pay attention to them because there are, I think, 7 or 8 tax-related articles that are credited for people. But when we had our subcommittee, remember, we had that grant where we had this money that we didn't figure, we had to figure out how to give it to people. We went up to the town hall and probably to your office, and there's like 6 or 8 programs for people to reduce their taxes. But only 2 people have ever applied in the whole town, you know what I mean? So you have to keep in mind, we're only 8,000 people in 9 square miles. Right, so a lot of these programs are very successful in other towns because of the high rate of population.
Because of the population.
Right, so
But,
So
but,
it's-
but here we have to be concerned, how many seniors would qualify in Cohasset? Probably several hundred, right?
we don't know.
Why wouldn't?
We know there's about 800 seniors, right? People over the
That's
age of,
all?
Yeah.
over the age of 60. Right, where a
Whatever.
third of the population is theoretically over the age of 60 for the town.
Okay, all right, well, that's substantial.
And then the question is, on an income level, do they
Yeah.
qualify for this, right? So then
Well,
you're-
wait a minute, is there income on the senior tax write-off?
It is, it's income driven.
Wait, it's not on the Valor Act,
No, it's not in the ballot.
but it is on the
Yep.
senior.
Right.
tax.
It is.
Definitely.
It's income driven.
Well, what is that gonna be?
That would be a decision that
Yeah.
the board makes. You
But, I
make
mean,
that.
anybody who owns a house in Cohasset, unless you take the house out of it, wouldn't qualify.
Yeah, it wouldn't include the house anyway as far as an asset. That's an asset, but income would be, I know Rockland tries to stay in line with the exemptions that we offer, just so they're
Okay,
similar.
so we use that.
So
chart.
that's a good line, either the deferral or the exemption. They're a little
Okay.
different, or they will be different. But that's, I believe Rockland tries to stay in line with that.
Okay.
Most towns do, I think.
All right, well, that will limit quite a few then. I
Yeah.
would think.
Right.
Okay.
I just have to say, we have a lot more than 800
Yeah.
people over 60.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
what I
no,
thought.
It's a third of the population of 8,000 people is over the age of 60,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, so.
But it's just public awareness. I mean, one of the things that, the reason why Rachel was excited about doing this is to let you all know that we also have exemptions for anyone who meets that criteria. And if they do, please send them to our office. And that's one of the things that we want to make sure. The deferral is something that over the years have gotten a little bit more popular. And we can pre-qualify them over the summer, just so that they know if they will be able to fill out the application and get it. So they can have a plan for third and fourth quarter. So that's why we're here. Phil, you have some great questions. You know, that's something that the senior and the veteran, it's other towns have done it, and they're amazing resources. It's great if Cohasset can follow. It is, but we're here to help.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
Thank you for your time today.
And I'm happy to get contact information for you in Rockland, or, she knows people in Situate, and if that's
Diane
helpful.
Bingham.
Yeah, Hingham, exactly. as well.
Well, this would have to, the senior work-off program would have to go on the town warrant, correct?
Yes, it would, and I
Right, and that
believe,
town warrant closes the end of this month,
I believe so.
so
yeah.
nothing's gonna happen.
No.
Okay. So this is food for thought for next year.
Yes,
Right.
yes, but it's a good thing to
It's-
start
I'm
thinking
stumped.
about,
Absolutely,
you know,
absolutely.
ahead of time, if you wanna go in
Great
that
questions,
direction.
though, great questions.
Well, they
Yeah.
weren't, they
Thank
weren't
you so much.
answered.
Another happy customer.
Okay, back on the administration of this program then. You would like the senior center to, again, I'm trying to see our involvement. You would like the senior center to track the hours.
Yeah,
You would like the senior center to,
For the senior
for the senior part,
senior
yeah,
tax.
for the senior, yeah, the Valor, the veterans were all taken care of. But from the senior work off, you want us to track the hours. You want us to qualify the individuals up to the point of having a trust examined.
no, that we would do that part
Yeah,
of that.
that's what I
Yes,
meant. You
yes,
would do the
exactly.
trust.
Yep,
And then we would run queries or how do you
So-
want to?
All this process stuff is things that we need to talk about with the treasurer collector. You know, it's not, they don't get to set the process.
Yeah.
They just,
Okay.
they give
We just-
they give the bonus, but they don't, but they don't set kind of how we decide we
Yeah.
wanna do it, so. That can be, you know, a subcommittee or something that we form that we decide how we want the process to go, involve the treasurer collector. And then, once we decide, we just let them know what the process is,
Okay.
as long as they can fulfill whatever they need to do on their side.
Well, my concern again is start this program off whenever it's approved or whatever. We need specifics. Maybe it's us that need the specifics, because I don't want any volunteer working and not having their hours count.
So what we normally do and what we've done in the past is just so you know, our bylaws allow us to set up subcommittees. And the reason why we set up subcommittees is because you don't have to. And subcommittees aren't part of the public disclosure piece of it. So subcommittees are able to go out and work and get all kinds of information and put it all together and then come to the board and present them with the information. And then you give them the 80 questions to go get the answers to, and then they go out and they go with the answers and come back and you drill it down. Because right now that you shouldn't be using the public meeting time to go through the details of trying to implement a program. That's what the subcommittees do.
Okay,
So
that's
the
fair.
board can meet with the subcommittees and do it that way. And that is how we've always done it in the past. And it's more efficient because then they can go off to town hall, get things done. A couple of examples where we did have a subcommittee for this tax work off. And we did have a roadblock, like I said earlier on, because the town just wasn't in a good position to be able to implement it. We did the tax, we had a grant or gift account, I guess you would call it, right? So we had 3 people on that committee. And we worked through how to get people to qualify. That subcommittee worked with your office and figured out who on an income level could qualify, and then they dispersed the money. Now, they took about 8 or 9 months, I believe, for us to do that, but we finally got that off the books. And there were 3 or 4 people that got a check. And it worked out extremely well. So putting those subcommittees together would be great. There should be a subcommittee for the bands, which I believe there's a subcommittee over there.
Yeah, he's waiting to present.
Subcommittee of one.
So-
So one of the-
Thank you.
So that helps us out, because remember, what we're doing here, all of this has to go into the meeting. So copies of everything that you had handed out go with the meeting minutes, right? So all of that goes with the minutes, right? So that's all part of it.
We'll be in touch.
Well,
Great.
does anyone have any more questions? I'm sorry, I monopolized all the questions.
I think you asked them all.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Does anybody else have any?
We are happy to answer any
Yeah,
questions.
and you can call us anytime, anyone, one of you.
Or come in, just come in and ask us, we can pre-qualify anyone. If you have any questions about, you might know a neighbor that may qualify for an exemption, just have them call our office, because we do ask them some private questions.
Mhm.
Nothing over the telephone, because we want to respect that, you know, anyone can call in.
And then to go back to what we've agreed to, I think, we're suggesting that 10 people would qualify for this. You don't, that's not your concern, right? You don't care if it's
No,
100
that would,
people.
that's all,
Okay.
those are all the things that
Okay.
you, that you would decide, the
Okay.
qualifications, that's.
We qualify them and then we take it off their bills,
Yeah.
at the end, so that's.
And
part of
if you call and you need help when you're researching or making decisions, happy to give you any resources, point you in the right direction when you're making those decisions.
Well, if you could, research some of those questions that I've asked you, and whether or not federal withholding is something that can be done.
That would definitely be a treasure push, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right,
I
all right,
would-
fair enough. Sorry, I thought you people.
That's
were
above my
trying
pay
to-
grade.
Okay.
Well, I have to
All
think about trying to.
Oh,
put this together, and-
absolutely, you gotta cross,
Yes,
yes,
okay.
yep.
Thank you very
All
much.
right.
Have a great day. Thanks for coming in. Thank you.
Okay.
Right.
Um,
Just one relating to this, we always put in the Vista the reminder of the exemptions, at least annually, I believe. I don't recall the last time it was put in the Vista. Do we need to put it in again?
Yeah, I'll look
I
back
don't
and
think
see.
it
I don't
was.
think, it's been done since I've been
Yeah. I
here.
don't think
No,
I
Since
was.
Nancy, I mean, I might mention it in my column,
Yeah.
and when to apply, but I can actually list them out more specifically.
I think that would be helpful.
We let Bob go next.
I was gonna say, okay, we have a motion to suspend our normal business to go through what we just went through. I'd like to extend that to let Bob, let the chief talk to us
By
about
all
vans.
Absolutely.
Okay, so just a quick recap of where we are at the present time. So obviously, this gets started with the idea of recreating the vehicles, the fleet. I hate to use that term because people get nervous, but the fleet of vehicles that we operate. And to tailor those to the needs of us. And when I say that, I mean that one type of vehicle doesn't fit all purposes. Having the big wheelchair van, yeah, we can get everybody in and out of that, but it goes a whopping total of 6 miles for every gallon of gas. So we prefer not to run that every single day. That being said, that'll be the top of the fleet, the big wheelchair van. Now, the good news on that is that it arrives tomorrow. Or excuse me, Wednesday. I'm a day ahead here. I'm thinking that fast.
The meeting was.
And so it'll arrive Wednesday. It'll take a little bit of time to spin up, get registered, do all the things we need to do. Once that happens, we will sell off the present one that we have. I've already talked to Michelle about that
The
process.
big one?
The big one, the
Okay.
big van. So the truck, as I like to say. So the the E350 truck that you see most of the time being used. Michelle, all she needs on that is the title and some other information, which I will get to her, and she will put it up for sale. So we'll get rid of that as quickly as possible. So it doesn't hang around in a parking lot someplace and everybody wonders what we're doing. The next order of business is the next vehicle down in the line, which is the Transit 350. Well, the two white vans that are sitting outside, the sister ships, the 150s, we're gonna be selling off both of those. Presently, we have one of those already sold. Ocean Honda in Hanover put in a bid for $32,000 for one of those two vehicles. So that is going. The second one, we're gonna hold on to until we take delivery of the next bid, the 350, just because we're worried about what happens if something breaks down. So we need to have that type of flexibility. So the 350, once, that's the next order of business, we'll order that, and that all comes down to town meeting and a town meeting vote. So when capital budget gives us the approval, then it goes to town meeting. Once that happens, we'll put the orders in. So that's the second vehicle that we'll be dealing with. So we'll have the big one, the little one, the smaller van, and then a, in quotes, minivan. At 11 o'clock today, there'll be one parked out front for all of you guys to take a look at. When you take a look at it, I want you to remember, no one vehicle fits all purposes. So there was some concerns about, can we get people in and out of a minivan? Well, if somebody has mobility issues and can't get in and out of a minivan, we won't use that van for that purpose. We'll use one of the bigger ones that they can walk in and out of. Right down to the biggest one, which most people can access that. It's not really a problem. It's just 3 stairs up into the van. There's plenty of headroom. There's not an issue.
Plus a wheelchair ramp.
Well, we're gonna go. So that's the wheelchair van. The big van is the big wheelchair van.
The big van that's here, or
Yes,
about
present, about to arrive on Wednesday.
Okay.
When we go to that second one down, the Transit 350, not only will that be a 7-passenger van, but it'll also have a backup wheelchair lift in the back, through the back door. So if our big van goes out of service for some reason, we can still provide that service of a wheelchair lift. And or if we had to do 2 wheelchair transports at the same time, we could. All right, we have the ability, we have flexibility there. My concern is I don't want anybody to get nervous when they see the size of the minivan. The minivan is meant to be able to transport, 5 people if needed. Thereabouts, people that aren't mobility challenged in any way, shape or form, whether it be just difficulty getting in and out of a vehicle. It would also serve as the backup to the little electric car. So the electric car does 99% of our, or 90% of our medical transports at the present time, but it's one person at a time. So it doesn't allow us a lot of flexibility in that regard. So the minivan would give us a little bit more of a opportunity to move more than one person. And again, the cool thing about this, and as I said, I'll let you see it, but it has sliding doors on both sides. So you can step in from either side. You don't have to crawl across a seat or do whatever the case may be. And that's what we're looking at. So that's kind of the thought process. The big wheelchair truck arrives on Wednesday. We'll be disposing of the present one as quickly as possible. The second one in the fleet, the Transit 350 with 6'6" headroom, which is those present ones have about 5 foot or less than 5 foot headroom. Hence the problem with, as the seniors like to say to me, what do you want me to do? Crawl in and out of this thing?
No, it's fine.
So yeah, it's difficult. So that one won't get ordered until we get a town meeting vote. As soon as we get a town meeting vote, we buy the base vehicle, it goes off to the outfitter to be built out. So there's, it's a $50,000+ unit. It'll have $25,000 worth of modifications down to it, so it fits our purpose. Right down to the lift out the back. The next one down, obviously, would be the minivan. Michelle, because we're going to use the $32,000 from the sale of one of the 2 that we have out there toward that vehicle. I think once we get the approval from town meeting, again, we'll just go. It's how quickly can we get one? And I think that'll be a lot quicker than the build out, because we're just buying a stock vehicle. So we shouldn't have any problem. And then the last thing of the fleet would be, again, the electric car. So I covered a lot of bases there.
Do we have any problems getting our hands on the electric car?
No, that one's assigned to us.
Yeah,
Only
it's
time?
assigned,
Yeah.
yeah, it's one, we have one assigned to do, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's been great.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's assigned to us and it sits over at the library because of the fact that's where the charging station is.
So the town meeting is on Monday, June 3rd. And when the 3 of us went to present to capital budget, the way that it works is they gave us $66,000 towards the big wheelchair van, in which we only used about 30,000 of it. So we were going to give them back 36. So instead of giving them back 36,000, we want to apply it to the 350, which is about 70,000. So we sell one of these vans for 40, we have the 70.
Right.
Right?
Mhm.
So now we want to get the minivan, which is about, say, 25 or 30. We would want to sell the other van as well. To capitalize on that. So the net result, when we went through the numbers, because Michelle Leary has how much each vehicle costs, because the town has to pay for them and then we get the credit. We sell the other vehicles, the cash comes back. So it was a total of only $30,000 we were asking for capital budget. So getting 30,000 from capital budget gets us basically 3 vehicles, 3 new vehicles, brand new vehicles.
In the new, which is nice.
Yeah, and
That's-
I have to also,
We're keeping one of the 150s? No.
No.
For the time being.
No, no.
Just for the time being, right?
Just for the
Well,
time
yeah.
being.
What's the headroom in the?
On the 350?
In the, what are you bringing
Oh, 150.
Oh, yeah,
It's a cost.
ones that are out there, those present ones, it's less than 5 feet.
Okay, but.
So the
Pacific.
Oh, that's a typical minivan. So what it is,
Just
it's
no
a Honda
headroom unless you're
Odyssey,
sitting down.
so that's
all I want to
why,
know.
I want you guys to put your hands and your eyes on this thing but understand that it's not meant to serve the same purpose as the two big vans.
Yeah.
The nice thing about it is, I think the round number is somewhere in the high 20s, or in the mid 20s for gas mileage. So we go from 6 miles a gallon to 20 something miles a gallon whenever possible. And it also, the other thing you have to, keep in mind is that we're limited on how far we can go and how much we can use the electric vehicle by the battery on the electric vehicle. We wouldn't have that problem with the other one. So
I
depending
remember
upon,
somebody promoting that electric vehicle
yeah,
and then being stuck in Middletown.
yeah, it was, I'm not getting home, so I know how that works. But it would also be, I think of this minivan as something that if the staff had to go to a staff or some type of a training session someplace, the staff could take the vehicle. So it gives us flexibility on how we're going to use it moving forward.
When,
And the
when this
other
is all
piece-
completed, let's walk ahead 6
Yeah.
months. How many parking spaces have we taken from Diane?
Now,
Diane,
Same
No.
amount.
same amount, okay,
yes,
all right,
Yeah.
We have 3 vehicles now, and we're gonna
We do
replace
the
them with
same.
a small,
Yeah.
medium, and large.
okay,
Yep. So we'll still take 3 spots.
okay.
So no extra spaces there. And the last point I wanted to make to everybody, because this was a capital budget that, having dealt with capital budget for as long as I have, what they want to know is replacement policy. And when Paul and I sat down with them and said, listen, we don't expect that we'll be coming back to see you again, asking for a vehicle for 10 years. So with that, we pretty much got the nod. Yeah.
Well, in
we get
addition to
this.
that, I have to thank Harold Hill over here, our music man, who also told them, we're the only department that's giving you money back.
We are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that,
Not
a
only.
lot of
money,
eyes
but,
went up over that.
When you say, using a
You
round
were
number.
very, you were perfect, you were perfect.
It's 30 times 3.
Yeah.
So we had
Yeah.
$120,000 worth of vehicles we asked for, and we're giving you back
90 grand.
90,000.
Yeah.
So,
That
yeah,
point was well made.
yes. So, We're getting
So
3
we'll do
vehicles
voting
for
rights.
30.
I've never seen a car.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it has to go through. Okay. Any other questions for the chief?
Just curiosity, when you take, say, the trip to the Stop and Shops, do you expect to be using the minivan for that, or is, it depends on who?
So
Right.
we would tailor the use to the clientele.
Okay.
So using last Friday as an example, I had only 2 people going to Stop and Shop, which we went to Stop and Shop. And the bottom line was, those 2 guys have no mobility issues at all. So running the big van at 6 miles to the gallon was kind of, why bother? So that's the idea of having
Yeah.
this idea of flexibility.
Yeah.
The biggest van gets 6, the transit van's gonna get low teens to mid-teens, and then the minivan will get 20 something. So not that we have to worry that much about the fuel consumption that we have, but who knows? Maybe we get much busier down the road and we do have to worry about that. As
So
I
there
can't tell you
does have
what,
to be we have to determine, who's going to be in charge of, the maintenance and pre-maintenance of the vehicle, because I don't know if Richie's been doing that or not, no.
No, and a lot of it falls on Liza, and she'll admittedly say that's not part of her, we
Yes.
should have spreadsheets. When everything is due, I know Bob's jumped in and said that you take a big part of that. But yeah, we have to get better at
So
that.
capital was pretty, the last go around, they were pretty serious about the history of the town in their assets, but not maintaining it very well, right? So the biggest thing is, oil change, tire rotation, to maintain them, make sure that they're going. Like Bob said, that we have one van that we put 3,000 miles on a year, so we only have one oil change all year, right? Because every 3,000 miles you get an oil change, right? So once a year, but we have to have we have to document that somehow that we're doing it, so we know that we're doing it. We have evidence that we're doing it, so that we can maintain those warranties and also.
You're working with the dealer that you're buying it from, so if you're buying it from the dealer.
So
that
we
dealer
were sending
gets-
them, so we did
should.
deal with Janelle Ford up in Hanover. That's where we were taking, but I understand we're not doing that. So I don't know. I know sometimes we take them to local places, which is just a personal preference for who's ever having to go book an oil change somewhere. But
I think a certain amount has to be done by, there's certain things that have to be done by an authorized dealer. Not oil changes, but in other things.
sure,
So I would assume that you would use Hanover, whatever it
yeah,
was. Dodge, that-
Janelle Ford is up there or.
So-
Or whoever you purchase the vehicle from, because your warranties are good for usually 70,000 miles. And then after that, you need to run your own, but to that point, if it is a warranty issue, it has to be taken care of by a warranty dealer. So,
Yeah, so I'm just saying, we don't have something formal in place here at Elder Affairs.
we should.
And I agree, yeah,
We should.
100%. I
And
mean,
it
we keep
can't-
all the receipts, we have an idea of what's needed, but we need spreadsheets, we need reminders, you
That
know.
could be a
Maybe-
volunteer position. Somebody that needs help.
Also, it's also a case of, it
Exactly.
doesn't have to
Is it
be
that-
hard on a piece of paper.
Correct.
This is something that could be a shared document on a computer so that everybody knows when was the last time that it was done,
Mhm.
when is it due?
Well, I mean, the school department
log-
must keep records like this. so-
They lease everything.
We
So they
log
The company takes care of it.
Okay.
all.
mileage. So there's a log in each one of those vehicles that you're supposed to put the date, who's driving, what you're doing, the mileage in, the time, the mileage that you took the vehicle, and then the mileage when you put it away. So we track mileage and we know that, you just put on that note, next due, the little sticker that's here, it says, next due at 10,200 miles, oil change. So as you're going through the list, whoever's doing the driving says, well, we're at 9,500. So then it gets on the radar screen that we need to do the oil change at some point in the future. While the vehicles are on warranty, they were going to the warranty dealers. Once they came off of warranty, for those two white vans, because of age, we started using a local,
Right.
a
Which makes
local
sense,
place,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'll
They-
smile and look at the end of the table and say, my godfather's son's plate. So I'll just leave it at that. Someone that I have a lot of faith in, let's put it that way, so.
So they did state that, police and fire had a really good Excel spreadsheet where they kept everything.
Yeah, that you could share, yeah, with
Right.
the team and then.
We do have to assign that duty to somebody.
You should, because I'll tell you, it's not 3,000 miles anymore for an
Yeah.
oil change. I was shocked. I mean, I have a brand new car and it's 10,000 miles.
Yeah.
Regular gas car. Now, I don't know what happens with the,
With our vehicles, what I'll smile and tell you, I don't know that we'll put 10,000 every year
Right.
on one,
That's
so
what
it's
I
an
mean.
annual oil change.
correct, that's exactly where it's going. Yeah,
So if you do that, you do it at the same time the sticker is
exactly.
doing the sticker, and you make sure that it gets done every year. So it's oil change and sticker. I think those right now are all scheduled for May.
Yeah.
So
It's perfect.
we know where we are.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any
very
more
much.
questions for chief? Okay,
Okay, so just keep it on your radar that he should be here
In
in about
15 minutes.
15 minutes. So I'll come back and find you when he arrives.
Okay.
well, I'm
Actually,
ready, I'm
won't be
ready for the
available.
clip.
I saw that. I saw it. You better not be here then.
Well, I knew it would be a long meeting today. Okay, if we can make a motion to refer back to our regular,
Oh,
agenda.
please.
Please do.
On the motion, on the motion, on the motion. All those in favor?
Yeah.
Opposed? Okay, let's go back to the minutes from last month. With Beth put together for it. So Beth, if you want to walk us through. Yeah, today's gonna be a little more difficult. Okay, does anybody have any questions on last month's minute? Very extensive minute. Okay, can I get a motion?
Motion to accept the meeting.
Second.
minutes.
Second.
Discussion on the motion, on the motion, on the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now we can go through our financial report.
Sure. So in, general account, we have a 28,000 expenditure receipt, similar to what it's been all along. We're at approximately 72% expended year to date for the 9 months period ended. So we're within our budget. Under the grants, we did receive the formula grant this month, the remaining portion of the formula grant. So we're paid up in full on the 30,000. We haven't really expended much under the formula grant, and that's an issue that we talk about all the time. So we have 56,000 sitting there as funds. The town, as I mentioned last month, has changed the carry forward to the correct carry forward. So we're in agreement with our town report that we're at $53,618.
And what happens if we don't spend that money? at the end of the
Well, the correspondence to date has always been, you don't have to turn it over, but obviously in time, it would be questioned, I think, if we don't spend it. Why are they giving it to us if we're not using it?
Yes, yeah, and there was some consideration of whether we were gonna use it for other things, now that we don't have to.
Specifically the pergola, I noted.
Specifically, which,
Yes.
so that is something to think about.
Right.
What to use with those.
So that we need to be thinking about how we're going to spend it. And it is for the kitchen coordinator. That was one plan who hasn't started yet. Perhaps for pergola if for some reason CPC doesn't.
Yeah, so we've always used this grant to bring somebody in to put in a program. And the way that we've always done it is, and this is how the state actually wants you to do it, is they give you this, 20,000 a year. It's right, 25,000 a year. What it is for is to put in programming, right? And then you do that for 2 or 3 years and get that programming up and running. And then once that occurs, then the town takes it over as part of your ongoing operations. Then you start a whole new program with the grant money and move that forward. So we've had a history of doing that here. It took a while for Chris Senior to come on board with that because it requires putting that person on payroll, right? So they're in for 19 hours a week, right? So we started that with Siobhan. That worked out great, and he kind of bought us from making it permanent to Elder Affairs, which it had to be. Our job had to be. So then we took that grant money and we used it for netting. And now we're kind of winding down with that program. So now we should, as a board, kind of decide what do we do next that we really need to put in place here that's going to solve some issues. And we could use this money for 3 things, right? The kitchen coordinator, right? We could also have a person part-time, whether it's 5 hours a week or not, put together the veterans program with Rich to do the outreach part, right? Kind of get the volunteers going. They can work with volunteer coordinator to track hours. We can use them to help us put together a plan for the senior work off for next year. You know what I mean? So that grant money should be used to
maintain the
establish.
fleet.
Correct.
Maintain the fleet.
Completely right. So keep that in mind when the purpose of the grant money is really for that. It's not really to buy chairs, though you can. Because we do yoga in chairs, so you can buy chairs. And so you can, right? So we would want to use some of that money for outdoor furnishings for outdoor activities. Right? So
what about now this discussion about putting the social worker, paying the social worker?
that was we discussed that with Nancy, so prior to Diane. So when I last talked to Nancy about this, probably about 6 months ago, the social worker was the key. She wanted, there were 3 things that she wanted: the social worker, the kitchen coordinator, not a chef, a kitchen coordinator, because that's easier to sell than chef. And there was another part of outreach here that she wanted to do. So the town manager said no to all 3 at one time. So we decided to kind of portion it out, right? So that's the plan, because Social Service League is currently paying. That money is going to come up. So it should be used. This money should take care of the social.
The problem is it was declined we put in the request with our budget. So,
The
Chris-
state said no to.
no,
social
no,
worker.
Chris,
Oh, to Chris.
yeah, Chris said no.
So
No
that's what we
to
have
the
work out.
social worker?
Yeah, putting it on, yeah, so.
So he's traditionally opposed to,
But
Adding
where's
new
social
staff,
worker come
but
from?
adding new social services.
the grant money pays for it, but you're still adding, the way that the
adding
grant money
staff.
works, and you actually have to put that person on as an employee to the town.
Yeah, and that's where we get stuck. We
So,
could get
and
approval,
he's saying no.
we got approval for the kitchen coordinator that we've been yet to hire.
Yeah.
Social
I
is
just-
more important.
It is, I just don't think how do I word it, the supporting documents were presented in time with Nancy being out unexpectedly, in time to her to,
Yeah.
So it was mentioned, but we need a little more time to pull it
Well, how
together.
are we paying Trish now?
The social services, and that's up in September.
So that's.
So we can use some of this funding, we can use this funding to continue the social worker. Which is what we should do, because it's a priority for us, right? Social service again in September, so we should use this, earmark some of the money for that. He already approved the kitchen coordinator. So what we have to do is we have to come up with a plan, present them the plan to say, this is what we need, this is why we need it. And have them come in and sit down with us. And say, this is why we need it. It says when you sit down.
And coming out of our funds. So it's not, it won't cost them a dime, theoretically.
Correct.
Okay.
But it does increase the payroll of
Right.
the town.
Yeah. I was, told, but it was requested that I meet with the social service league and ask for an extension at least till September, at least till next fiscal year in order to get the data. So I would,
But he doesn't know we have a surplus, 50,000.
I would rather.
He doesn't.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, he
yeah,
doesn't.
so that'd be,
So we would want to,
do that first.
we should probably present them something to them saying, listen, here's the deal.
Mhm.
We're going to use 20 of this from September to June 30th.
Mhm.
And after that, they're going directly on the grant.
I like that idea.
There's no other way
Yeah,
around it.
I like that a lot, the social service league, it was 5 years and they've been wonderful and
Oh,
I
yes.
wasn't really,
Yeah.
about going back there.
Right.
So I'd rather go this week, so,
Makes
The
more
money's
sense.
there.
yeah,
They're supposed to help us in these temporary situations,
Right.
is what they like to do. They're not funding our payroll for 5 years.
Exactly.
yes,
right,
and I didn't
exactly.
feel, I didn't
Sense.
feel, right- I
Tomato.
didn't feel right about it.
And one of the things we do, is we're not supposed to be paying people. It's the people-
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you could put a patch on it and everything.
Yeah.
One of the mottos is, it's a handout, not a handout.
Mhm.
And if Chris just, or town gets used to that one person, we're not supposed to be hiring people.
Mhm.
Which is what has happened.
And we was most appreciative of the past 5 years, it has been.
Unbelievable.
Especially through COVID and things. like
Yeah, it
that.
is, it's.
They try. They
You know,
really do.
the need was recognized and funded, and we thank you for that, so I will follow up with you on.
Yeah, we just
Okay,
put a plan together.
so some of these processes I'm a little foggy on, so I appreciate you guys telling me which way to go, that I went and I said, it's up in September, this is what we need, and,
Sounds like we can set our own
yeah.
process, so.
So
Well, just give us a call anytime. Eleanor can take a call. I know how to
No,
take a call.
I have been reaching out,
Yeah.
and Megan has been, that was the best route for right now, because I didn't have I thought possibly Nancy had a proposal all set, but one is not in place understandably, where she left so abruptly, and he can decline what he wants the funds used for,
Yeah, yeah.
and he has in the past, so getting the kitchen coordinator was a big
Big deal.
and now we'll try for this.
And the town should have a social worker.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
Yeah.
So we
If it's
introduce.
using it and
And
wants it, go for it. I mean,
Absolutely, her position cannot be eliminated. Right.
And it's not even.
No,
No,
it's not that.
no, it's part-time.
It's part-time and it's so needed.
Yeah.
And every other town has.
Is the
And I
van
think they're
here?
We have a very shiny white van sitting out front for whenever you're ready, so.
Okay.
And the one thing I-
tomorrow.
Yeah, the one thing I want to remind everybody, so just manage expectations. The vehicle, the back seat, as I mentioned, the second row seating has a center console. The center console is in there right now, but the center console comes out in 2 minutes. So you can take it out and then the side seats slide all the way over to give you
And
access to
they'll
the very
demonstrate
back.
that, right?
Hmm?
He'll demonstrate this.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Okay.
trying to get him to take the console out right now, but.
Well, that's where the bottles are gonna be, so
Yeah.
be careful.
What do I do with the meeting? Do I stop?
Well, no,
here and
no,
keep
no, no, I'll
recording?
handle it.
So,
Oh.
so,
Give us about 20
so
minutes.
we'll be out front when you're ready.
Okay.
About 20 minutes.
All right.
Continue.
Okay, so quickly, revolving fund is just churning around and it's at that 850 net where we've been pretty much all year long. Gift accounts, we had some activity, social worker activity, again, we got another 5,000 and we just spent the money for the social worker. And that's it, the band's coming tomorrow, but we have that 34,000. We did that. The 66. And questions or comments?
As I always ask you, we in good shape?
Yeah.
Okay,
I think.
we get a motion on the
Move
treasurer's
to
report?
accept.
Second.
On the motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Perfect, thank you. Okay, now the director's report.
I'm gonna talk really, really fast.
Okay.
Ready, go.
Which I-
Why are you laughing? Keep talking.
I know.
I do have a pergola update that's on the.
I know,
Oh,
look
yes.
at it.
Okay. All right, so the new Ford wheelchair accessible transfer van is gonna be delivered Wednesday at 8:30. The radio is gonna be installed at a later time. They're gonna invoice for the whole thing with the radio. I said that is fine. Michelle Leary has the paperwork contract. There's a little bit of, communication reaching her about this, but I'm told she has everything in hand. Our portion to pay after the 2023 Community Transit Grant Award we receive is $21,200. That's a required local portion that you have to pay. And this was previously approved and we paid out of the capital budget. Okay, I also have someone Wednesday afternoon from Mass Dot. As part of the grant process, they come and have to inspect the van. He's coming at 3 o'clock, so I'll be here for that. Town Hall is gonna register it, Maria. We're gonna take a bunch of pictures, send them over. We're gonna try to do a big PR and everything. So I don't know when the van will be up and running, there's a little bit of a process. But we're getting it on Wednesday, which is very exciting.
So we don't know if they're gonna come with the passive senior stuff on it or not.
No, I'm not sure about all that. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
They took pictures, they asked pictures of the van, so we don't know if they're gonna come.
With
If not,
that.
then it goes off to Hassan for the,
Yeah, right. A lot of this is going through Michelle and, last week it was reached out to me and said, you're gonna have the $21,200 check in it. So I'm leaving all that with,
it is, yeah.
leaving it with Town Hall and we don't have to have that in hand. We can pay for it after. But I got that a verbal, he said, we can still deliver the van. So, the Cohasset Open Studio Art Show on March 26th was a huge success, brought a lot of new faces into the building. We want to make it an annual event. It was wonderful. Patty and Liza represented CEA at the 13th annual rec fair. The fair was also a success with over, I'm told, 1,000 attendees, which is great, We had many visitors at our table. On last Tuesday, we had our second annual intergenerational cornhole event. We welcomed Safe Harbor ambassadors along with students from Cohasset High. Our folks emerged victorious for the second year in a row. Truly, these kids were really trying to. They were letting you win.
We handled the scoring.
But we plan to make this a great event, an annual event.
Those kids were terrific.
It was a blast. We
They had so much
fun.
fun.
We had
Yeah.
so much
The
fun.
kids got in the car and they were like, that was really fun.
Yeah,
Like,
it
they were
really
surprised.
It, what really stuck out, I had a little break for pizza portion. Well, the conversation and the pizza took so long, we had to say, come on, guys, they really loved
Yeah.
every part of it. It
Yeah,
wasn't
they
just the
did.
cornhole, so.
It's great.
That's gonna be an annual event. Upcoming events, we still have some availability for the following April events. I won't name them all, you can see them there. And all these events are, coming up in great, especially the Hockey 101 with Michael Connell. He's our local person. Patty was able to get him in here, which is great. A reminder, our community dinner is on May 23rd. Sunrise at Cohasset is cooking. which is great, barbecue chicken, potato salad, coleslaw, cornbread, and we're also gonna have music to kick off Memorial Day. Music sounds of Brian Kane, Jazz and Jatina, that's gonna be during dessert. So that's a little bit of a twisted community dinner.
Sunrise is doing this. thing?
Sunrise is doing it. They cook for us before they come in with it all in the tray. roll it out.
What happened to our kitchen coordinator?
We're still, he came one time. I think he's having some health issues. He was
Oh.
great though. His beef burritos were great, you know,
Uh-huh.
so.
Oh, so
yeah,
he's
so-
a maybe.
Has he been?
He was here once.
No, on that community dinner, I don't know whether it was you or Nancy, but somebody stated that they expected the board to be responsible for the community dinners. And we had no one step up. So, you know, I sort of let that lie. So the board is not responsible for this one, correct?
Oh, we expect.
We have to
hope-
serve.
We hope.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, but
that's
we
all
hoping
that-
you will serve and clean, yeah, that's going forward, yeah, but the cooking part is done, the cooking part is done.
Okay,
So that's a big, especially for Jim, you know,
Right.
you,
yeah,
yeah.
well, that's what I said, when.
Yeah.
I don't know, there's no mention of St. Patrick's
No.
Day. in here.
Oh,
Which was so good.
it was so good.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah, I know,
Oh, yeah,
I-
we
I-
had 80 people here, but we won't mention that.
I put that, you know where I put that?
Who are
In
you
the-
gonna throw under the bus?
In
for
the
this?
town hall newsletter, I put that, and I talked about that upside down on Facebook, I'm sorry, I didn't put it in my. I apologize, you know it was great, and so.
Amazing.
it's
I was there.
so
I had a good time.
appreciated. It was so appreciated. That is always one of my favorite events. Montana Castle reached out to me about a grant, a pollinator garden opportunity at Wilcox Commons, which is really interesting. So they're right now in the beginning stages of that. And they need an area, it's about 4 foot by 8 foot here, and they're gonna come and identify, you know, the local pollinators that come in, which I'm told are typically not stinging bees. There's actually a doctor from Tuscan to come and analyze it. And then they have their own volunteers, they're gonna maintain it. And I'm thinking an area maybe like right outside here, away from, you know, our patio and away from Bocce. They can do one by the coast and one inland, and the point of the whole program is after it's studied, identified what plants bring the most pollinators, that people can put them in their backyard, they'll have, because we all wanna do something, but we don't know what to do, right? And you don't wanna bring in the wrong type of a hornet's nest or something, so I said, yes, I think this is exactly the type of things that we should be doing here at CEA, kind of progressive.
Is there a date for any of that?
No, they're right now in the design phase,
Okay.
and she's putting in for the grant by the end of April, but I said, sign us up, I hope that's okay with you, everybody, right?
I
Yeah.
think everybody enjoyed that.
Yeah, I think that'll be great, and I'll send more information. Our volunteer appreciation, I had added this since Friday. So this may not be on the one if you printed it out from home, it's Tuesday, May 7th here at Wilcox Commons, similar to last year. From 4 to 6, we're gonna have a mocktail social, and Melissa Paletto will be catering it. It's gonna be in the front room, okay, friends have agreed to pay for half of it. Liza will be contacting you all by email. And a written invitation in the mail, I believe, for this event. So, follow up regarding some concerns. I spoke to the postmaster, Jim Polito, twice. Kathy, who's here, was brought up wanting to have another blue box in the parking lot. That's not going to happen. He checked with, the postmaster, they're moving away from more blue boxes
Yeah.
for lots of reasons.
I was just gonna say.
I even said to him, well, you know, it would relieve some of the traffic in the post office parking lot. I've been there. He said, no, we like the traffic because our desk traffic's down. We want the seniors coming.
Oh,
I said, oh, the businesses, which I thought was interesting.
Well, then a lot of the blue boxes are the security of them now.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
figured out how to
Split.
break into them. all,
Yeah,
so.
so it's in, and I've talked to him, very nice man, but what he suggested is what we could do. He's get an outgoing box here that's covered, not locked,
mhm,
but at least it's outgoing.
Yeah.
You know, because we just have one open box.
right.
Yeah.
If you can see, you know, and then he said he told our mailman that, you know, to lift it up. So at least we'll have some privacy, but he reminded me on multiple times during two conversations that Town Hall has all their mail just out like that too. So we're not special. He's trying to
It's kind of like when you go to weddings these
Like
days,
when-
and they have the boxes that you put the
Just-
envelopes
just-
in.
Yeah, so.
That always bothered
And then
me.
you
I'd
could-
never take anything, but gee.
Right, I never would, but we will,
And
so
no
I'm
one
gonna
can
have
see 'em.
Richie order one that says outgoing and we'll have,
Yeah.
incoming,
Mhm.
so.
Let's try it.
So that, I tried, my Active Center, Jim, I know you have some concerns about the 4 clicks and, we've been looking at this. My Active Center is directly connected to my senior center, which is our big database. When someone signs up, the information's transferred right over, paid and everything. That is the only thing they offer right now, is my Active Center, that unless we change the whole shebang. So, there's other alternatives, register for programs, calling obviously coming in, but as of right now, I don't see my Active Center changing. So I tried though, I've been looking at, this, unless we really change our whole
I've
process.
heard from more people complaining about the cumbersome nature of that.
Yeah,
sign-up
it's
thing.
4 clicks, it's 4 clicks. I might do a survey. I would just start their survey of how many people it's impacting, because I honestly have only heard from
Mhm.
about it, maybe they're just not coming to me.
You're not the people. like-
I think I am. I beg to differ. I
up
beg to
right now.
differ.
Are you just talking about people's ability to sign up for programming?
Yeah, on my Active Center, it takes,
My Active Center.
but it's widely used though, and we implemented that during COVID for people at home, so people didn't have to come in and drop off their checks.
Right.
So it is being used,
Uh-huh.
and the process is working on our end, although it may not be user friendly on. But for right now, but we can revisit it.
Mhm.
I just didn't want you to think I wasn't addressing your
A
concern.
lot of the groups,
She's not blowing you off.
Yeah, that's it.
a lot of the younger groups use Sign Up Genius
Yeah.
for things.
Yeah.
That's pretty intuitive. If you needed, if you had a real cumbersome problem, you could go to Sign Up Genius and you could just put whatever program you want people to sign up.
It may be just the nature of people being technical, but I don't know, it wouldn't matter which.
Yeah, I
It's some
agree.
kind of an issue.
I don't know if Sign Up Genius would automatically connect to our database.
Oh, no,
My
what he's-
I think
system.
he's
Yeah, we'd have to
thinking
do a
of it as an
separate,
alternative,
an
but-
alternative, yeah, but I'm open to suggestions down the road. I know
Yeah.
that I love what the library uses, I need to look more into that, but then
Mhm.
again, that's connected to their own.
Yeah.
Their own thing.
That's
Okay.
When Megan could be helpful.
Yes, we're
She's
gonna
the
look
IT
at all of that, down the
She
road.
really is.
So in March, we provided services, activities, and outreach to 400 individuals, resulting in 1,318 repeat visits. This is an increase of 10% from last month.
I like putting the increases in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you suggested that. I'm
Yeah.
listening.
Good.
For March, the website received 200 visits, that's an increase of 9% last month. For March, 23 riders took a total of 191 rides. 127 of them were for shopping, miscellaneous, 64 of those were medical rides, and 44 were in the electric car used by a total of 14 riders. The total increase in rides from last month is 3%. So at least the numbers are going up, and I did forget about it, which was such a great.
That would explain why the numbers went up.
Weren't the step dancers great?
Yeah, they were, yeah,
They were
too.
so-
Okay, can we get a motion on the director's report?
Move to some.
All right.
Approved.
A second? On the motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries? Okay, now let's quickly get through some of the other activities down here. I attended all of these meetings, by the way, with the capital budgets and with CPC, and I am very thankful I'm not on either one of those committees.
Mm.
Those people really work, so I was refreshed. But let me turn over the pergola discussion to Harold Hill, the music man. We got trouble right here, World Cup Commons, this is the sales,
So we,
go for it.
we did go a couple of weeks ago to CPC, as most of you attended. That's when we did the original presentation for the pergola. Then they emailed me about a week later saying, okay, fill out our 14-page form with all the financials and details. So I went in front of CPC on Thursday night. So Thursday night, there were 5 other people that had to present as well. Like you said, everyone's asking for money. So I went up, I detailed the list. I actually went in at a higher number than we originally talked about.
Yeah.
I went in at 75,000 from CPC plus our 25, so it's $100,000 project. Because we're gonna need awnings, we're gonna need furnishings.
Yes.
We don't know what'll happen. I took the quote that Glenn had, I added a 10% contingency to it, so I wanted to make sure that I could justify my numbers, because that's what they asked for. So it was pretty comprehensive form too, which is kind of nice, because, you know, people just ask for money and they go, okay, but now there's all kinds of departments that you have to make sure you talk to and see. And I asked Glenn if he would be the project manager. He said he would, because they asked who that person would be on the form, so you have to have somebody already in place. So I did that.
That's great. You agreed to that.
So that's been approved to go on the warrant.
The
So,
warrant has to come out the end of this month,
Right.
so it's very
yeah,
important.
so that'll be in there for the 75, and it's kind of funny because the library was there. And they're asking, you know, to build a pavilion. And
They weren't there, that was the thing.
so, yeah, so they went and they said, geez, we underestimated it. We thought it was gonna be 450, but now it's gonna be 650, right? So, yeah, so then I come up, right? Because they were talking about putting the pergola and the pavilion and all that other stuff, and I said, well, that's the big P. I'm here for a little P. I'm here for pergola. You know, and the meeting was right over here, so I said, look, it's gonna be right down the hall, right outside. And it's for, I took your paragraph about what we're gonna use it for, outdoor recreation.
And they went ahead and they listed it as not only recreation, but they also listed it as education, so we're in under two,
Two
Mhm.
categories. So,
so it's good.
so we're in, town meeting vote, I'm sure. I've never heard of anyone not voting for CPC expenses, so we're in, so we could get Glenn started on it. I would recommend that we have a subcommittee,
Yes,
and have Glenn in charge of project.
well, we got a problem because we've got to spend that, what's left of the 25 grand before the end of June. And what Glenn said, now that the price is over 70 grand just to start with, we've got to go for 3 bids. So, and he thought it was unwise, because we had talked about, let's have the footings done now. He thought it was unwise to separate that, now that we have to go to 3 bids. So we want one contractor to bid the whole thing. So I don't know where we stand at this moment. Did you
Yeah,
talk
so-
to Glenn at all?
So right now, yeah, so right now where we are is, he did speak with Michelle Leary about how to expense the grant. So that's the priority, and I did disclose that to CPC, is that we have to spend that money by June 30th. So the current plan is to buy the raw materials, to go out and buy the lumber. By June 30th, and that would expense the 25,000, and then.
Lumber for the footing?
No,
just-
The whole thing, that's gonna cost a lot more.
Correct, it's around 40, but we can expense the 25 from here,
Oh,
and
okay.
we can
Put it on
encumber,
as
we
a
can
credit.
encumber the CPC money.
And that material will be maintained somewhere other than here.
Yeah, they're probably holding it in lumber.
Okay.
Oh, good, good.
So is Glenn moving forward on that plan?
I'm asking you if you would like him to do that.
Yes. Well, we'll ask the board.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
please,
yes.
Yeah,
please.
great,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So I'll let him know that he's in charge, and that he would have to coordinate with Diane or her designee. And then we should probably have 1 or 2 people on a subcommittee, because we've got to reach out. Like, I called Evans Awnings, you know, just to get an idea. Like I said, I had the thing from multiple woodworkers come in, you know, and it showed a pergola, you know, with the awnings on it. Paul Grady, the select board member who's also on CPC, said, you know, I just put a pergola in at my house, and you're not gonna believe it, but the sun is killing us, so I have to put a shade on. And I burst out laughing. I'm like, yeah, we've had some heated discussion.
Well, it's included, Tom. We're
We're getting them.
That's included.
So we have time to put a committee together to go out and look for awning coverings and shades that come down. We want to do that. We also need to put patio furniture out there, something to sit on, or, so we have to determine from the staff, well, what program do you want to put out there? Because if we just bury that place with cafe tables, then you can't have a yoga class, or, you know what I mean? So we have to understand what we're going to use the space for. We'll determine what kind of furnishing. So we have to kind of decide that as a board. What are we going to do? So right now, give Glenn a call and say, listen, start digging the hole. And then we'll have probably, as long as we want, 6 months to go figure out what we want to do with furnishings and all that. So, because Well, they're gonna say, look, yeah, that's a nice, I know it's 18 by 30. But once it's up, then they'll come and measure it and say, here's what it costs for money. Yeah. So we're not, we don't have a time limit to spend the CPC. We get the money in here, so I did state that if there was excess cash left over, that we could return it if they wanted it. And if there was a deficit, that we would, you know, evaluate to fund it ourselves.
We funded
come
ourselves,
back.
maybe that's possibly the gift fund or
Yeah.
the
Okay.
54 grant or the gift fund.
Right.
The only thing I appreciate all this is all these transactionary things with Michelle Leary. I just feel like I'm not, you know,
In the loop.
yeah, so I appreciate your help.
So I'm with you on that, because I'm very frustrated with Bob kind of took over the whole van thing with Michelle, and it wasn't a whole board process,
Right.
right? So that's where it got confusing for me as well. So they kind of went out and did these deals. They've already sold a van. I'm like, well, we didn't say sell the van yet, right? Because we need the vans, but it's already done. So that's why I said it's very important to have these subcommittees so that we know what's going on. It's great that Michelle is doing all this stuff off the cuff,
Yeah.
Bob, but
Well, I mean, I think we should,
Yeah.
who wants to be on the subcommittee for the,
We'd like it greatly so we can watch all the transactions.
you want a piece of this?
I'm sure that's right.
yeah, I'll take a
Yeah,
piece of it. I'll coordinate with you.
Okay,
Yes.
good. Very successful.
And I'll stay on with Bob on the van piece. I
Okay.
don't think you need too many.
Yeah, we were lucky you just stepped up to do that without,
And then the other thing you have to do is, so traditionally, the vice chair would handle the subcommittee for board membership. So every year, in May, Tana would go to the town hall and find out what three people are up for reelection, and are you going to be up for reelection? And if not, we need to find somebody to fill your seat. So we do that every year in May. We come in May, they'll come and say, Tana would say, okay, you three people are up. Your term ends June 30th. So are you gonna re-up or not? And then get the paperwork over to the town clerk to re-up your term. So I don't know whose terms are up. So it looks like
Diane.
Rich. Term up for June of 2024, Rich Hines. Diana Carter. All Pierce.
Last year.
Oh, there we go.
Here we go.
I'm up. The three of us are up. So we have to renew, and then the associate members is Sarah. And is Marcia filling us?
Yeah.
No, she's here. No, it is Taffy. So Taffy and Sarah are up for the associate.
Kathy's a
Kathy's
It's not a
Yeah.
little bit.
She has.
She's
There you go.
No, I'm sorry, full member. Yeah, so this is wrong,
And
because there's
I
only,
just signed up last year.
this
Did
is,
you? The whole thing is.
It might be.
this is, the sheet's wrong, because there's only 3 directors that are every year. Rotate every year, and then there's 3 to make 9 directors that vote. Then there's 3 associates that do not. And only 1 associate is up every year.
I think we only have 2 associates right now, right?
yes.
Yes, that's fine, what I have. Do you want to, this is.
Right, so there's an open seat for.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So there's 9 directors that vote
And 3 open.
and 3 associates.
Okay.
And the way that it works is there's 3 up every year that rotate, so you'll always have a quorum,
Okay,
right? And then the associates, there should be 1 up every year.
I see. Okay.
Every 3 years, somebody is up.
And I wanted to mention that we have nominations for our offices next month. First round of nominations. And then we'll have the second round of nominations in June with the vote. So. Okay, we all set on the pergola?
What's that on the pergola?
Okay, let me go through what happened about using the senior center for
Yeah, that
town
meeting.
use. We had a meeting, everybody was represented, it was amazing amount of people were here. Talked about what happened, we had, my individual reluctance to having this election here. First of all, the election went off extremely well. This is the perfect place for them to do it. And I told them never again. I told them that that's not what it's for. I had our documents, and what have you, but really didn't need them. Was asked several times, you know, what the effect was on us, and luckily Rich Gibbons put together a list of all the programs that does not happen, and the amount of seniors that were affected. That over the 2 days, which we're lucky, was supposed to be 3, it was only 2 days. 175 veterans, or 175 seniors could no longer participate in the program. So I leaned on them heavily with that. They definitely got the message that it's not happening here. The school committee jumped up, they're gonna take care of the next one, which is in June, the voting in June, so they're gonna take care of that. We came up with discussion, what about using the schools, and I went out of my way and recommended that we don't, because I think it's nowadays with school shootings and what have you, I think it's crazy to have school in session while we're also doing voting. Even though most of us grew up voting in schools while this was going on, so I recommended not using the schools. I brought up the fact that when we did the town meeting during COVID, that we rented the music circus for that. So the precedent's been set. The town spent $40,000 each time that they rented the music circus. So the precedent was on the table and they're kicking it around. There was a lot of negative ideas about going outside the town. And I said, no, let's rent what we need. Somebody here brought up the idea of using St. Anthony's Hall. Terrific idea. I brought that up. It was boo-hooed, you know, absolutely no way we're gonna do that. Then by the end of the meeting, everybody came around and said, that's a good place to do it.
Yeah, open pocket.
So, yeah, I mean, everything was perfect. Not as nice as here, but everything was perfect. So the facilities decided they'd go off and look at that and see if there was an opportunity to do that. But the precedent been set at that meeting that now, in fact, the town can spend some money to have this thing. It was clear it wasn't gonna be here, and the main thing was the fact that how many seniors it displaced. So I got very little pushback. So we're on record with everybody that the town clerk was negative through the whole thing, as many others were, but by the end of the meeting, everybody got in the spirit of cooperation to try to find how to do this. The next date for voting is gonna be September 3rd, which is the first day of school. So school's definitely off limits. It won't be at the school. So they've got now until September to find out a place to do it. If they come back, which I think they will, because this is so perfect for this. We need to figure out if we're gonna do this, what we wanna trade for this. This is a real opportunity for us, if there's anything we need. If the swim center closes Labor Day, extend it an extra day.
I can do more than that. We were gonna extend it until the middle of September.
Well, you'll get rent for the parking lot.
Yeah.
And that's something you should push for. And as well as us, if there's anything we think we wanna use as a trade, because we got a tremendous amount of leverage here. Or we could just refuse it altogether, which is the way it stands now. I told them absolutely not. So
That's if St. Anthony's turns it down.
if they even move that far,
Okay.
you know, they've got to go obviously negotiate with St. Anthony's. At the end of the meeting, everybody thought that was the purpose was to do it. We've got 3 precincts now and they don't want to divide up the precincts, which is another way to handle it, so different places.
We could, if this is the place that they want to have it, we should leverage that outreach.
That's right.
As a permanent person.
Well, I mean, we got some leverage here if we want to move forward. We don't have to move forward. I've already told them no.
There's a law that says you can't use it, there's a deed.
I know. But we can be gracious if we choose to.
I also want to say, being gracious is lovely and all this kind of stuff. But if you set a precedent, which is what we're doing, then that's, and you establish the principle of estoppel, you're not gonna be able to get it back.
Well,
And that's.
that's the way it is now. I told them no.
Yeah, good.
So,
Did I hear that we could vote at the town hall if a fireman was there?
no, if a fire detail, very specific. So, because I
One
offered in
person.
that,
One person.
no, a detail. And the fire chief at the time said that he couldn't guarantee a detail that would offer, that they could use at the town hall. Now, I suggested, would one fireman and CERT be an alternative. He said no.
Wow.
Yeah, so he, I think what it is firemen work,
Yeah.
you know, they work, you know, 2 days, 48 hours at a time. And they had their own businesses afterwards, so they didn't have an opportunity. And I asked about using fire departments from other towns, and he said, no, they're in the same boat. So that, to me, I thought was a easy way out, you know, not without the fire department.
Outside of the National Guard coming to the town hall, there's not another option.
So, so anyway, it stands that they won't use here, but I do expect them to be back.
Awesome.
Should we, not to be.
No, no,
He's
hang
gonna
on a
leave.
second, hang on a
Okay.
second. Okay. I think we're ready. What I want to do again, next month, we're gonna have the first round of nominations. Also, I would like to establish a subcommittee for the senior tax work on. I will participate in that because I'm involved in the Valor Act anyway. Anybody else want to get involved in that? It's gonna be a year program.
Let's pick next month.
No, no.
Let's think about
Okay.
it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. All right, well, I'll entertain a motion to.
So,
Second.
third.
Discussion on the motion, on the motion, on the motion. All those in favor?
Right.
Opposed? Let's go look at the